topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the host and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Diversity Talk. I'm Wendy Stewart. I'm, as usual, so happy to be here with you all tonight. I am very excited because Triversity, which is located in Milford, Pennsylvania, is doing a very big event with Delaware Valley Action this Sunday. And I hope those of you in the tri-state area can come to the Pike County Pride event. That's right. We are celebrating Pride, and we will be located in Acconack Park in Dingman's Ferry, Pennsylvania. And as you all know, Triversity has a center in Milford right on the main street. So we partnered with another organization, Delaware Valley Action. I have to tell you something about like being in a small town and working with other organizations. There's so much that can be accomplished in terms of bringing positive energy together and really doing great community-minded stuff. So again, Acconack Park, 12 to 4 this Sunday is Pike County Pride. And I'm producing the talent show. That's right. I almost forgot to tell you that. Oh, I got an itch on my nose. And we've got some really great vendors coming. There'll be information tables and fabulous t-shirts that are only $10 a piece. Can you imagine? They say Triversity on them. So come support our event, get a t-shirt, come and applaud the entertainment. And I might even be slipping in a little tune. So I hope to see you all Sunday. So my guest tonight, I know from both New York City and Pennsylvania. And this person has always fascinated me because they are literally a jack of all trades and a mover and a shaker and a magic maker. This person that I am going to introduce creates and hosts his own show called Kyle Supley's Out There. And he's also a comedian, a New York City tour guide, if you can believe that, hosts this fabulous night called After Dark at Julius Bar, which I have yet to make, but in 2 years, my bad, but I intend to be there. And a collector, a preservationist, a photographer. And you know what, ladies and gentlemen, there's probably a whole lot of other things that we're going to find out about tonight. So please welcome Kyle Supley.
Wow, what a welcome.
And there you are. Well, I don't think I even got all the hats that you wear.
Oh, I'm sure they'll pop up.
I'm sure those hats will pop up too. So welcome to the show. And I really meant what I said. I've been trying to get to your After Dark event in Julius Bar that you have once a month. It's the last Saturday of the month.
The first Saturday of the month.
There you go. That's why
you've never made it. Oh, Wendy. Oh my God.
you see, if I were there, I would know when it was. But I know it's a once a month party. I know it's a fabulous party because a number of my friends have gone, and everyone knows you. Everyone loves you. I have an itch on my nose. That really makes me crazy.
I have an itch on my right here, so we're even. Ta-da! We're back.
You know what it is when it's humid like this? It like makes us all itchy.
I was gonna say, we can't be expected.
And, I'm proud to say I know you also from Pennsylvania. To our audience, there are so many people that live in New York that go to Pennsylvania on the weekends. It's an hour and 40 minutes from New York City. But as I say, worlds away. And for those of us that spend so much time in New York working our tails off, it's wonderful to go out to an area that has an amazing LGBTQ community. two groups, Triversity as well as Catskill Pride. We have lots of social events. And you know what? We've got some of the most beautiful waterfalls, hiking, right? Do you do all of that, Kyle? Do you hike and everything?
I do. Yeah. I mean, I'm originally from upstate New York, a town called Schenectady. And every weekend as a kid, we would go to the Adirondacks. And so we were
Oh,
hiking and boating. And my dad was a part-time boat builder and cyclist. And we did all that stuff. And I kind of took it for granted a little bit and then moved to New York. And now, after many, many years being here, almost 25 years, I was like, whoa, I need to get back to some nature.
get back to it. Well, you see, Kyle, I never knew that about you. I thought you were maybe from, the urban New York area or New Jersey. My sister happens to live in Albany. My amazing friend Jack Phelan has a house up on a mountain. You know Jack because he's been to Julius.
Yeah.
He's in Albany like every weekend. He sits on the New York State Thruway for 5 hours.
Yeah.
Kyle, when you were growing up, it wasn't that. I used to be able to visit my sister in 3 hours. Now it's like, I don't understand what's going on. I went to go see her. I got an hour out of Milford, Pennsylvania. It took me an hour and a half to get to the next exit. And you know what I did? I turned around and came home.
Oh no. Yeah, you really got to plan like when you're doing your travel. If you can do it either late at night or on the days that people generally don't do it. I mean, it's a little bit of a mixed bag now more than it used to be because some people work remote Mondays or Fridays.
Right.
That kind of can help change it up a little bit. But yeah, there's too many cars and people need to carpool a bit more. Meet a new friend, right?
That's exactly right. There's just too many cars. To get to Pennsylvania from New York, no matter how bad it is, it never takes me more than 2.5 hours ever. And that's with
Don't let the secret out, Wendy. Stop. Don't tell everyone. No, it's funny. Like I discovered Pennsylvania kind of by accident. I was looking up by the Hudson area because being from upstate, I was like, that's where all the hippies are and the fun people or the New Yorkers that made an impact in the 50s, 60s, and 70s, moved upstate. So I want to be with them. But the prices after COVID were just so crazy. And I was kind of looking around. I fell into a little bit of money, due to some family
That's so
stuff.
wonderful. I'm applauding you. You fell into money. That's I love.
Well, I mean, it was actually due to my great uncle passing of COVID. So it was kind of like, oh no, but it's a bit of a bummer, but I think he'd be happy in how it turned out. He was much older and etc. So anywho, but yeah, discovered Pennsylvania area and out by Milford and realized how many super cool people are out there too. I really didn't know as a kid. I didn't go to that area. We would always go north, but the elevation is quite high and it feels a lot like the Adirondacks. So it's kind of a really great getaway.
And we are in the mountains. It's interesting you said you discovered it because for me, I discovered it. I met someone that had a llama farm there with 64 llamas.
Oh my
God. Invited me out for a visit along with my other friends. Who does that? This guy, Richard Snyder, was amazing. He owned the big hotel in town, the Hotel Faucher. He didn't even own it though at that point. It was empty. So 9/11 happens. This is my Milford story. 9/11 happens and I'm completely freaked out because I'm in the city and they were having all these code oranges about going over the bridge, like, you had to. Do you remember? It was insane. And I thought, oh my God. And Richard invited me to stay with him. And I was sitting on the porch of his house, imagining myself having a second place there. And literally less than a year, it was like 8 months later, I bought the house across the road from him.
As Howard Jones's album said many years ago, dream into action.
Oh, I love that, Kyle.
Into action. That great. I really believe it. It's very true. It's, it's part of the secret and putting it out there and stuff. But I do think if you really, really want something, you usually can make something like it happen. It might not be perfect, but it'll be close.
Right. Because you can, I'm sure you believe in manifesting things, right?
Totally. Yes. Absolutely.
Now, I had to let our audience in on the little secret. We were playing with the light in the beginning of the show. You have quite a lamp collection.
I have many collections. It started to go way back when I first saw Back to the Future, the movie, still one of my favorite films. The opening sequence is Doc's clock collection, and they pass through all of his clocks, the Kit Kat clocks, the drinking clock, the guy who drinks the booze, everything. And I was just so blown away because as a kid growing up in upstate New York in the 80s and 90s, decor was pretty bland. It was mostly like the country look, which like fine, but I grew up also watching Pee-wee's Playhouse, Pee-wee's Big Adventure. My dad sat me down and was like, this is the best show on television. This guy's a genius. Sit and watch. My dad was into comedy and very funny.
Okay, completely love your dad. I never met him. He sat you in front of the TV to watch Pee-wee's Playhouse. What an amazing dad. God
Yeah,
bless.
no, it's true. My
Oh,
mom's amazing too. I'm an only child, and I
wow.
drove them a little crazy, but we would go antiquing every weekend in the Adirondacks with our dog, and we would stop at antique shops and garage sales, and I was able to scoop up tons of these amazing antiques. And the clocks started my first collection. My
How old
great
are you?
grandma, I had all my great grandparents in the beginning, which is pretty amazing.
Cool.
So I do find that people tend to love history when they're raised by their grandparents or
Yeah.
great grandparents involved. And so she had a cuckoo clock on her wall. I had seen them in the cartoons with Bugs Bunny, and I was like, that's a real thing. And so I used to swing from the chains on it, which is a miracle. It didn't fall off the wall,
Oh
but it
my
never
God.
worked. And then when she passed away, I asked to get it. I was around 11 or 12 years old. I took it all apart because my dad worked at General Electric, was a machinist. He taught me how to do that kind of stuff a little bit. So I was already intrigued. So I took the clock apart, figured out how the bellows that make the cuckoo sound work. And I
Yeah.
fixed it with like an old shower curtain. I used the material from an old shower curtain to make the pattern, to redo the bellows at 11. I thought this was normal. I thought kids were doing this. But then my
Okay, I think
grandpa,
you're like some kind of genius. You're completely blowing me away by this because you just did it and you knew what you were doing.
sometimes you just got to play and like try not to damage the thing too much, but learn as you go. And that became my hobby. And then my grandpa brought me to the National Association of Watch and Clock Collectors meeting. Everyone there was around 70 plus years old, and I came in at 12 years old, and they were like, oh, and so they took me under their wing. This one guy, his name was Smiley Lumpkin. I don't know if
Smiley.
I think Smiley was his, nickname, but he was so nice, taught me a ton. And it's amazing how the brain works when you're 12, because he showed me just a few processes and I absorbed them. I still use them today. I fix clocks on the side still for a bunch of the clock repairmen in Manhattan because a lot of them passed away. So they'll send them to me. I'm like a ghost repair person. But so clocks was the first collection. I have about 750 in the collection at this point.
Okay, hold up, Kyle. You have currently, while you're sitting here, 750 clocks.
In the collection, it's around that. And that's not the only collection is the issue. It became Art Deco toasters. I was collecting vacuums for a while, like 50s and 60s vacuums. That my parents were like, please no. And so I only have a couple of those. They were a little too big. But then I got into lava lamps, the early lava lamps. I got a collection
I
of
love
those,
those.
the
Wow.
glitter lamps, the fiber optic lamps, anything kitschy, campy, and fun and outrageous
Right.
drew me in, because when I was a kid, the lamps were boring. And so I was like, what is all this wild stuff that was before me that people really liked? They loved this outrageous stuff. And so then 50s lamps is a big collection of mine. Of course, they're also very big. And I live in a 1-bedroom apartment in Manhattan, so it's a little tricky. I have some storage, a storage unit now. I pared down. I had 2 for a minute, but I'm a little more organized. My dream is to have a museum of mid-century design one day.
Your own museum, right? That you can show your things to people. That would
Well,
be
yeah, and also to educate people and showcase these wild designs that really haven't been celebrated as much as I think they should. But always it takes too long for people to realize the importance of things that in their minds just happened. So for me, it's a little bit of that. I'll give you a quick sneak peek. The place isn't ultra clean, but here's like
Oh my
some
gosh.
of the
Wow.
50s lamps
Your
and
lamps are
the
just gorgeous.
Starburst clocks. That one over there, I'm fixing up right now. That's a light to light my face. Ignore that one. And then some over there as well. We've got the Moss Lighting Company. They made plexiglass lamps out of San Francisco in the 50s. This is I found that one in the trash in Hell's Kitchen. This one was on Marketplace over here, which I just love. It's a tension pole lamp. This is a light allure.
That's gorgeous. That tension pull one is just beautiful.
Isn't that cool? I'm sorry if I'm messing up the lighting. We're back. But anyway, yeah, I love lamps. I taught myself how to fix those and rewire them. Most of the things I have, I like to have work. Even if they're not currently working at that moment, I like to fix them up, have them work. So that's been a hobby for years. And but then I had to like get a job and like go to New York.
I'm so sorry for you that happened. Wait, damn it. But okay, I'm going to say something to you right here. So my husband used to deal Dunhill lighters and pipes. And I've got
Oh my God.
of that.
That's cool.
And I've got silver lighters. I'm looking to unload stuff. So you and I need to have a little chitty chat, right?
Please. This is what's starting to happen. It's funny. Is like people who've been collecting for years are starting to be like, well, Kyle cares.
Right.
Let's let Kyle, which is I'm not opposed to, but I really got to get that museum thing set up and like storage. So if anyone out there wants to assist or help in this foundation, I got to work that out. But that's the long-term goal.
Well,
But
I'm going to help you because I'm thinking I have like a grandfather clock that I don't want that's been in the closet. I am going to give that thing to you. I just wanted to have a good
okay,
home.
if,
You see
if
the
anyone out
magic.
there collects large real estate and they don't want that anymore, I'll think of me, because it's it's the thing. Is like I love this stuff, and I don't. There's a fine line, of course, between hoarding, careful, or collecting cool stuff. They always say that there's like hoarding. You got to be careful, but there is like such great stuff out there, and I'm always trying to also help other people who are interested in this stuff. Like I'll send it to them. Like there's this deal that's over by you. Lately, everyone has been not getting rid of because the prices are going back up, but the wrought iron furniture from the 50s and
I
60s.
love that stuff.
I do too, but now everyone's giving it to me, and I'm like, oops, we got to stop now. It's a yard of furniture. We don't really want that. But again, I hate to see the stuff get thrown out. But anyway, I feel like I'm doing too much talking. Back to your questions.
I don't even remember what the question was, but I have a new question for you.
Oh, job. Sorry about getting a job, but
I
I'll
have
tell you
a
about
new
that.
question for you. I used to have lists of when the garbage pickup nights were in Manhattan because I too collect antiques, furniture, and all kinds of stuff. Did you ever do that? Did you ever collect the? That came from Hell's Kitchen. That came from the garbage, right?
Yeah, I mean, by the time I was in school at FIT in '99, there was still some of that, and there would be nights, but
Right.
it was getting a little bit picked over at that point. When I was a little kid, the 50s were really hot because it was the
Yeah.
mid to late 80s. They always say it takes about 30 years for people to start appreciating and also emptying their closets. So in the 80s,
Right.
it was about the 50s. The 90s came the big 60s, 70s thing when I was in high school. So I was buying all the vintage clothing. This is my father's 1967 shirt right here.
Let me see this. This is very cool on you. I love that you're wearing it.
Well, that's the other thing. I have a disco shirt collection. I don't know if you know this.
I didn't know.
um,
You always, by the way, you always look great. Okay,
Thank you. I
and
appreciate
your
that.
partner is like all about style. He always looks amazing. And when I describe the two of you to people, because someone will say, "Who are they?" I'm like, "Oh, you know them." And it's true. Like you think about every item that you wear, and so does he. You're like out of a magazine.
Well, so you know what? To me, especially also loving the mid-century and the 60s in New
Yeah.
York, everybody really gave a crud about how they looked. And my grandma kind of taught me that too. She had the same hairstyle and same hairstylist since I think she told me 1946. And she had the huge Marilyn Monroe Mae West hair. And she
I
kept
love
that
it.
until I think 3 years before she passed, only because the hairstylist passed away. But she always said, always dress up. You don't know who's going to see you. You don't have to go crazy. We get tired and stuff. But I try to keep the clothes looking nice and the vintage stuff. I have about 600 disco shirts. Again, big numbers
I
around here.
just don't know where you're putting all of this in a one-bedroom apartment. I'm worried.
Well, so yeah, I have one of those IKEA double height mirrored huge wardrobe type things.
Got it.
The best stuff is there. I've got a few storage units. Not I shouldn't say units. An area of the storage unit that is some of the not the best stuff. I want to do a book. I've photographed during COVID most of the best of the disco shirts. These are the ones with all men's, mind you. And I like that because you need something specific to collect. But women's clothing, if I was a woman, forget it, because there's so much freaking good, amazing stuff. I would be broke. So menswear was a little more cordoned down, I guess you would say. But in the 70s, men were the peacock. And so they would have the crazy disco shirts with the huge, like a big
It's a whole
phonograph
disco
over
era.
here. I should have pulled some out next time. Have me on again or something. But we'll do a whole disco shirt thing. You can look on YouTube for Kyle Supley disco shirts. I think there's a couple videos. But there's ones with like firemen like shooting into a brick building in New York, or
On a shirt. I love that. I totally love that. That's amazing.
Nick was a big company that I actually got to meet the creator the other day. He's 95. I think he just turned 95. Barry Boonshaft. He lives on the Upper East Side. And through the Mad Museum where my partner works, I met a woman who loved my shirt. The first woman who really talked about my disco shirt that night. This is why I wear these things. We start talking, and I said, "Oh, I love Nick. That's my number one collection or collectible item I want of disco shirts." She goes, "Oh, well, my brother-in-law created the company." She said, "You want to meet him?" And I'm like, "Oh my
If
god!"
that's not meant to be. I don't know what is. My God.
There's so much of this stuff. I have to say that I'm trying to write down these stories and maybe work on a one-man show just about the kismet nature of how all this stuff and the people who've helped me, or the stories of things that find me. I feel like if you give a hoot about antiques and care, it kind of finds you in a weird way. Maybe that's just me, but it's
No, I
worked
think
really
they
well.
do it when you can supply a backstory for it.
That's
It's
the
even
fun part, yeah. And
even better.
I try to get people to appreciate these things because a lot of people say, "Oh, I grew up with that lamp," or "Oh, my mom had that." But to take another look at it and see the quality and the craftsmanship and the
Right.
outrageous nature of some of these designs is so cool. And to think that people were having fun and like pushing boundaries, it's kind of queer in and of itself. Speaking of Triversity and all. By the way, the name Triversity, I'm just realizing, I think, being that it's in Milford, is it supposed to be like tri-state diversity?
Yes, I named it. It used to be the Upper Delaware GLBT, and that was really hard for people to say.
Yeah,
Upper Delaware GLBT. I used to say, hold the mayo, I'll take mine medium rare.
that's
And
fun.
when we would table events, I would like, the people like, tell me about your organization. It was too hard to get out. So at the time, our executive director, Carrie Jackalone, said, oh, we need to change the name. So I said, well, what about Triversity? We represent the tri-state area. New York, New Jersey, and Pennsylvania,
I didn't
but
realize that.
the rural parts, not the urban part. So that's how it came together. And I really like it. It's been challenged. Whenever you get new people on board, they're like, oh, we should. Yeah, everyone wants to. I don't listen. It's not part of my ego. I just thought it was a good name for the organization. It does roll
I
off
like
of your
it.
tongue.
I think maybe even just if you had a little maybe you do, but a little graphic of I love where the three states meet together at
Yeah, it's a
that little
vortex,
stone.
right?
That would maybe help because I didn't realize that. Anywho,
Anywho, we do have a graphic. It's not that. It's another graphic. Someone else designed that. I don't do graphics. You do.
I do graphics, but I probably should go back and learn how you can do it today because it's come a long way, baby, as the old cigarette ad would
Oh my
say.
God. Yeah. And everyone uses Canva for everything. But I wanted to talk to you about, so you're this little kid growing up. I know the Albany area. My sister lives in Dwaynesburg. You were this tasteful kid. You had to be very different from the other kids that were in school.
Oh, yeah, it's true. So when I was, I think 10 or so, I bought my first phonograph or Victor Victrola wind-up phonograph, and
Yeah.
I would bring friends over to play them my 78 RPM records, including Pennsylvania Polka and Little White Lies on the hit of the week paper records. I mean, my friends somehow like I see I was able to laugh about it and laugh with them, which put them a little more ease. So they're like, okay, he's just a weirdo, but he's kind of fun. Let him hang out. There's a
Right. He's
fine
quirky,
line, right?
kooky.
But yeah, so I started collecting, like I said, at a very early age, and I would like showcase this stuff. I started designing the bulletin boards outside of the third grade classroom, and because they
Wow.
wanted to decorate something, I was like, I'll do it. And then it's this funny looking. I just saw the photo the other day. I've been putting some stuff together, but the first one was at Thanksgiving. I don't think we have a photo of this, which is a drag, but my concept was to do a turkey. And I told all the kids, bring in your dad's vintage ties and your mom's vintage jewelry.
I
And
love
then
it.
I made the turkey feathers were all vintage ties coming out from the center of a cardboard turkey. And then we hung jewelry around it. And then at Christmas, we did, which I do have a photo of, a Christmas tree. And the ties were all like coming down the tree. And then we decorated the jewelry as all the ornaments. It was very fun. I
How brilliant.
I don't know how this happened. It's because I think he died. No, he died much later. But I always felt like Andy Warhol somehow got infused in the water or something with me because so much of what he loved, illustration,
You
vintage,
did.
Art Deco as a kid,
Yeah.
graphics, New York, partying, clubs, interviewing people, photography,
Yeah.
Polaroids. I wasn't trying to copy him. It was just in my blood. I just love that stuff. I don't know how it happened, but here we are.
Well, it's totally who you are. I love that you did a turkey and a Christmas tree in drag. You were like ahead of everybody.
With vintage items, even before, and there were some ties at the end of it where I was like, I'm keeping this. This is a cool pattern. Not
Right,
realizing I would end up going to school for textile design at FIT.
right. That's how. So you left Albany. What other schools? I'm curious. Did you apply to
Okay,
RISD or?
I'll try to make it quick. So I was on the front page of the paper in the Schenectady Gazette in 1999 for my prom outfit because it came from a dream I had where my prom date, Corey Rowe at the time, that was her name then, but she had a well, it was my design, and her mom was the costumer for the high school. So I was like, you can come to the prom, because she was too young to come unless someone invited her who was older. So it's like, come with me. She was great anyway. She's so much fun. I was like, it'd be fun. Let's go to the prom. But I was like, can your mom help with the outfit? And so it was a huge butterfly, and the tendrils of the back of the butterfly went around the back of the dress. It was netting and then bug print underneath, all turquoise and blue and yellows. And then I got a white suit at the Salvation Army and spray painted it blue. I was blowing blue out of my nose the whole night because I had spray painted like that day. But anyway, we made the front page of the paper, so that was really fun. And that started putting me, I guess, on the upstate map a little, where people were like, look at that oddball. What's he doing? And then I went to FIT, which my friends were like, oh, you're going to Fags in Training, FIT. And I wasn't even out yet. And I was like, that's mean. Although it worked. Hey, no.
They called it that? I never heard it called that. My God.
You've never heard Fags in Training? Oh, my God, yeah. That's upstate New York for you. But yeah, that was kind of hilarious. But I was there the first year in the closet because I was like, I wasn't ready. I didn't know. The city was a lot to take on. It was a whole long, drawn-out story. But other schools I went to FIT first, 2-year degree. Then I wanted to go to RISD. I wanted to go to NYU. That was my dream. I
figured RISD would be one of your choices, or Pratt. Or Pratt.
Pratt I thought was cool, but I think, I'm trying to remember. Well, the price was kind of really high. Well, Pratt, actually, is that true? Yeah, Pratt was high. Cooper Union was free at the time if you got in.
Right.
But I wanted a little more technical, and I loved graphic design. And so I was trying to mix graphics with art and fashion. So that's why I was like, textile design might be really great. Did it for 2 years, but then realized there wasn't much pay. I wouldn't be able to really live in New York on that pay. So I was like, oh, crap, what am I going to do? So I thought about teaching. So I went back upstate to a school that is now out of business, unfortunately, the College of St. Rose, which I don't know how they messed that up, but a pretty good school at the time. They had...
Wasn't that in Schenectady or Troy?
That was in Albany, right in Albany, downtown.
In Albany, okay.
Yeah, and then Milton Glaser, the graphic designer who did the I Love New York logo, was a big part of it, and like gave money for a number of years. I guess maybe that ceased. Maybe that was part of it. But he created a nice little art school that was there. So I figured, okay, I'll do that. I'll do teaching. I ended up falling into TV production while there. It's a long story. But then got an internship at Queer Eye for the Straight Guy, the first Queer Eye down here.
Wait, we gotta this is a lot, okay? You were upstate. Okay, you start doing TV production upstate. How did you end up making the leap from... My sister worked in upstate New York TV production and then went to work at GE, okay? So I know all the stuff you're talking about. How did you jump from TV production upstate to Queer Eye?
Well, it's funny because my whole family was General Electric people, and my first museum was at the General Electric Museum in Schenectady, by the way. Anyway, so cool. Well, how that happened was... how did it happen? Well, I was doing... that's what it was. I went to school to do graphic design and the teaching, but the first graphic design classes I took were so drab and serious, and they were like, here's the graphics, here's the image, here's the color palette, just put it together. And I was like, well, that's not very creative. I really wanted to be an art director, and I realized that you have to do the graphic design first, become an art director. Anyway, I didn't love it, and I was like, I'm going to do photography, I guess, because I really loved it, but I didn't know how I'd make any money aside from teaching. So I did that, but I was like, I got to diversify a little bit, or try-versify.
I like that.
You like that? Hey. But the school had a really good TV production studio, and it was right near where my apartment was. So I became friends with the guy there. I think I did a summer class program. I had always grown up, like I said, in a way, Pee-wee's Playhouse, MTV, the whole TV thing.
Yeah, I got visual.
I was into it, but I was kind of scared of it. But I was finally like, no, I'm going to figure this out. So I did that, took a couple classes, like I said, and then one day on Mandy.com, which was the website at the time for to get internships, the top promoted one was Queer Eye for the Straight Guy. And I know they had just come out. I was out by then and had my first partner. We were living in Albany, and I saw this and I was like, whoa. And it was in New York for the summer. I was like, what? Why don't I pretend I live in New York and apply?
Fabulous.
And I did. And I came down and I stayed at my friend's on St. Mark's Place in a little loft. We're talking like the top of a closet. It was like this big. It was very kind of her.
But what a great to New York story. It
was amazing. And it was so cool because the people I met on the show, it was everything I loved. It was fashion, style, food, New York, television, queer life. I was like, whoa, I really landed. And I'm very fortunate. It all found me. And there's so many other chances where this all happened too. But Shannon Robert Bowen is this amazing guy. But at the time I interviewed with him, we were very similar stature and interest, and he took me under his wing and introduced me to all of the downtown New York people at the time, which I was just like, I'm in New York, this is normal, but I didn't realize how extremely special till a few years later, how it was with meeting Murray Hill and Linda Simpson and,
Yeah, Linda and Murray and
all of them. And the Clamp Art Gallery was his friend, Shannon's friend from Colorado. So I got my first job working there, where I met Arthur Tress, the photographer, and James Bidgood, the photographer. And so then I was like, loving the photography world was here, the fashion world, the TV world. It really,
everything that you were interested, Kyle, was all around you. It's
it
like
was
you
pretty awesome. But then 2008, so I ended up getting a job in TV, and I worked for Anthony Bourdain. No Reservations was the same production company, so I worked with that, which was such a cool moment in time. Rest in peace, Tony.
What was it like working with Anthony Bourdain?
You know what? He was on the road a lot. I was more in the office, but I would watch him on 3 different cameras, 3 different reels for every show. So I really got to know his comedy and his stories. So that was all great. We met a couple times and hung out. I beat him at bowling once. He was not happy with that. And I wasn't really a great bowler, but
He was such a charismatic guy.
Something happened, but that was fun. 2008 was rough. That's when everyone got laid off, and New York kind of, it was bad. So I ended up getting a job at Apple, trying to do teaching and education and creative stuff there. But it was a tough time because everybody else ran to Apple. So I ended up just being a salesperson for the longest time, being one of the top salespeople, which was crazy. I was just a nerd who liked helping people. But one day my boss was like, hey, you realize you're the #1 salesperson at Fifth Avenue Apple, which is the #1 retail store in the world at the time. So he's like, you're the #1 salesman in the world. I mean, I don't know. But I was just like, what? I'm like, I don't want to. Where's the clocks I'm supposed to be fixing? Where's my TV show? Which would come later. Then after that, I did a Kickstarter. My friend pushed me to do that for Kyle Supley's Out There, starting to interview and educate and celebrate all these amazing, fun people that I met around New York, and was so fortunate. By then, I was realizing how special these people were and how fortunate I was. So I got to do a season of that show, and it still exists on Ovation Network, on the Journey Network. People send me photos from the airport. They'll see it like airing on the airport, but it's often on mute. And I'm like, well, that doesn't really help. But it's funny. It's out there. You know what it's like. But anyway, so I did that little stint for a while, which was fun. And then I was doing my Polaroid project on Fire Island, kind of in the Tom Bianchi vein a little bit.
What was your Polaroid project? What was that?
It was Polaroids of gorgeous people on Fire Island, basically. And I was trying to do something with my photography. And so this was a fun project. I don't do as much of it now. I did about 5 years of it. I hope to do a little project or a book or something with that. Fell into, though, being on Fire Island, this job that I worked at, doing sales, calling on architects in the city, selling laminates. And when I was a kid, I was obsessed with vintage boomerang laminates. And so all this stuff has always kind of been, the 50s emblem of a nucleus or a nuclear symbol. I feel like that's been my life, where I'm always orbiting around all this stuff.
What's so amazing, Kyle, it's like if it's in your head, all of a sudden it appears, and the next thing you know, like if we were to look at your resume, right? If I were a corporate person looking at your resume, I'd be like, this guy's been everywhere. Why does he switch jobs so much? But it's not that. It's like if you can think of it, you attract it, and then you do it.
It's true. And the other crazy thing too is because knowing that a lot of people can't wrap their head around what is this guy. I've had to keep, I mean, a lot of people do this, but I have kept a full-time job the entire time, which is so exhausting. But like Apple, there's TV, then Apple, then I was teaching photography at a private school, then the sales rep for Wilson Art, the laminate company, and I'm still working in architectural sales to this day. People are like, Kyle, this is a little crazy now. Like, you're a tour guide, you're a DJ, you're full-time, you always were. I'm not trying to toot my own horn, but it is something, if you keep being busy, and I almost said Tom Jones. That's funny. Steve Jobs. Tom Jones, Steve Jobs. No, Steve Jobs always said we're best when we're busiest.
Right.
And I do really believe that, because I mean,
we all fulfilled. It's very fulfilling. People always say to me, I watch your page on Facebook. It's exhausting. How do you do it? Why do you do it? Whoa, I love this. When are you going to stop?
I ask myself that too, because there's obviously mania. And you don't want mania, because I want to do a good enough job.
I think it's people that want to explore, people that just have a ton of interests. I have a ton of interests. You have a ton of interests. How incredible to be able to act on them and work in them and meet other people, right, that are part of that too.
No, that's been the best. That's been the best part. You bring up a good point too, though, is like just these amazing people I get to meet and interact with. There's sometimes I get bummed out because I'm like, oh man, like I never got serious about one thing and became a fashion designer or became a popular singer as one thing. But these days,
do that.
It's what?
It's not you to do that. That's
Yeah.
not you.
Jack of all trades, like you said at the top of the show.
Right. And you have your hand in a lot of things, and that's your personality. And you know what? You will thrive at that. That is who you are. You know,
Thank you. And
not the one thing person.
It's been a very, like, knock wood, fortunate road too, because I have been able to do so many of these things where it's like, I wouldn't have been, my grandma always said that. She's like, you would not have been happy staying in upstate working as like a legal clerk or something and then going home every day. Like, it just wouldn't
Right,
work.
your grandmother is very insightful, and that's the one, we're back to that one thing. Kyle Supley is not one thing. Kyle Supley is many things, but what I think is great is you manage to employ yourself doing these things. Like the after dark night at Julius. You came up with that, right?
Well, so that came about from a cool way. I'll try to be quick, but a friend of mine approached me because he knew I loved history and vintage stuff in the city. So he was putting together, Michael Ryan is his name, and he was putting together a tour with Municipal Art Society called Gay Bars That Are Gone. And he asked if I would co-host it with him. So I said, sure. He did a lot of the research. He's a great researcher. And this was like, we've almost doing, I think, 8 to 9 years at this point. But we do it usually once a year. It's a big special event. And we go and focus on all the gay bars that are gone. So where they used to be, what the location is now. We hear stories from the audience for those who survived or was there back in the day, or young people come and learn. Right. So I think it was the first one. At the end of it, I think Michael suggested it. He was like, can we go to a bar afterwards and you could DJ some vintage music and make it feel like it was the clubs back then, which I was all about. I was like, okay.
That is a brilliant idea, because you created an entire ambiance for your audience when you do that.
Yeah. And I had known about After Dark magazine, which was this vintage magazine. Well, I shouldn't say vintage, but it's an older magazine now, but started in around 67, I want to say, or 6. And then maybe in 68, and then it ran till like the late 80s. But that's the era of music that I love the most anyway, and when the clubs in New York, I think, was at its best too. So I thought it was a good name for it. And then I do a different cover we've been doing like 5 years at Julius, and it's been so great. And I mix in vintage vinyl, rare disco. I'll do some rare cuts from my computer, and it's great because the word has taken a while to spread, but now people who were at those places back in the day and love that music, it's hard to find it sometimes today. And so they come and they get to really experience it with friends, or if you close your eyes, you can feel you're going back in time. Right. I've always loved playing with time, if you haven't noticed.
I didn't notice that at all. You do love playing with time. You do love it. So you, the tour guide thing, which fits in, by the way, with all of this.
It does. It is funny. So
it is. I get it.
So that came about because I was driving and listening to the Bowery Boys podcast, which is the most amazing podcast. If you don't know about it out there, check it out. They've got about, I think it's like 500 at this point, episodes all about New York City history. They're both LGBTQ, and they're funny and so well researched, and it's a such a well done podcast. But one day I was driving and they said they were going to start doing walking tours, and I almost drove off the road. And I was like, what? I'm like, that sounds amazing. And I'm like, I want to do the World's Fair. Because when I was 9 years old in upstate New York, I found a collector's magazine that I think my mother had brought home. She was very supportive, still is. And it was the 50th anniversary of the 39 World's Fair in New York. Well, I was already into New York. I was into Art Deco as a kid, as most children are. And I saw this fair that looked like it landed from outer space in New York City. I thought more of it would be there. So I was very excited when I first came to the city. I went to the grounds and looked around. I was like, where'd it go? There are a lot of extant buildings that are still there, so there's enough.
Kyle, I was there. I was at that original World's Fair. It was 64. Really phenomenal.
You were at 64, I hope. You're unless
I was at the 64 World's Fair where they built, that sphere and everything.
The Unisphere, for sure. So you got to come on the tour.
So amazing.
Well, so it's funny. So then I wrote to them and I called them and I said, hey, can I be a tour guide for the World's Fair? I said, well, that's a great idea, but you have to be an official tour guide. And I was like, oh. And so I went and I got the tour guide license with the city, and I've kept it ever since. And so I do that tour. I do Under the High Line, so the history of Chelsea and the High Line and the area around there. I do another one. It's kind of a private one at this point, not private, but we don't market it quite as much. But it was Rock and Roll Homes of the West Village. So Bette Midler's house, John Lennon's house, all those, Janis Joplin. It's been very fun. And then the Gay Bars That Are Gone, as I mentioned. Am I forgetting one? I think there's one more.
I hope you know.
The World's Fair, I guess. But anyway, so yeah, so it's been fun. A little side thing about once a month, I'll do that. It's the same night as I do After Dark, because it's like the weekend I'm in the city. boom, we're doing the tour.
That's right. That's why you're in the city the whole weekend. I always
The
wondered
first
why.
weekend, you can find me here, folks.
Wow. How is it, Kyle, you never got involved doing those ghost tours in New York?
Oh, it
I'm
just
very
didn't
into
end.
those.
Well, the really good one is what's the one down on, is it 4th Street? It's
What's
on
the
tip of
name
my
of it? Do you
tongue.
remember the name of it?
Oh, I can picture it. The something house, I think. Hold on. I'm looking it up on my phone.
Thank you. You would
Tour.
be so good at giving a ghost tour.
I mean, hey, I'll do any tour really, but the one I really want to do is not one I host, but it's the Gilded Age Mansions of Fifth Avenue. You go to
Oh, yeah. That would be
BoweryBillsWalks.com. See, I can't type tour into my phone because it's going to bring up all of my own tours. I'm going to get back to you on that, but they do a tour, and it's, well, you know what? If anybody out there, just look up the most haunted building in New York City, Merchant House. I think it's that.
I knew about the merchant. I'm into the haunted thing, and I knew that the merchant house was the most haunted.
But yeah, so that's been a fun thing. What else? Oh, I think we covered most of the things I do. That's exciting.
That's it. There's no more. I mean, we have everything but the kitchen sink here, Kyle Supley. Everything but the kitchen sink. What do you like most about being in upstate New York?
You mean Pocono's Way?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, that's been amazing. And speaking of history, finding somebody, I ended up finding through the cheapest thing on Zillow, a fixer-upper. That turns out it was the show house for the community that I'm in 1964, the same year as the World's Fair. Can you believe it?
That's what I mean. Look at great. Wow.
And it was the Woman's Day vacation home model for Woman's Day magazine, built under their specifications. And so I've been able to put a lot of my mid-century stuff in it, which I wanted to do anyway. And so it's been really great. I love getting out of the city. I don't mean to gloat because I know how hard it is. And for many years I couldn't. And I'm so thankful to be able to have that luxury because I was in the city, 23 years with my dad having to pick me up from the train in Albany and driving me home and like not be able to go anywhere. And it's like a car, if you can swing it, it's darn expensive these days. It's crazy. Or keep it upstate, where it's cheaper if you can. But being able to travel around is so important to me and surviving New York. Because then when I come back to the city, I feel so much more refreshed and excited. And I love being able to share and showcase my adventures with other people, and especially telling them ones that they can get to by train or do a little zip car, because there are ways to escape the city, even if you don't have the ability.
Absolutely. You are completely fascinating. You got a gazillion things that you're doing. And so here is like one of those key questions. What's your plan going forward, Kyle Supley?
It's true. So I'm trying to learn to say no a bit more.
Oh my God. First of all, what sign are you?
Scorpio.
I've got Scorpio in my sign. I just had this conversation with Tim Moss today. I'm turning things down, and I never did that, but I've learned I need to go with what is in my gut for an absolute yes, and not waste my time if I'm feeling, why am I doing this project?
Wasn't it John Lennon said, say yes? It was like painted on the ceiling. I think it was that one.
But and Nancy Reagan said, just say no. So that's
I know, there's the balance.
Right? Exactly.
Right? So goals for me, I'm trying to put together a little one-man show. Who isn't? But no, I want to do something that's celebrating these crazy stories. And I've taken so many photographs over the years, and I just want to really relate for other people to take a look at their life or things in their life or things that are important to them and take a new look at them and appreciate them in different ways, or maybe see the magic behind experiences you have or people you meet. And so I'm trying to weave that together, maybe do a few songs like someone named Wendy sometimes does. Because I love to sing.
Stand-up song thing going on too.
Well, singing was I loved singing. I was in chorus as a kid. I was in the gay men's chorus for a minute before COVID hit. And I love it so much, but it's just very hard today to really not that you have to make money at it, but to do it as a career is pretty challenging. You have to have the funds to put a band together if you can. My friend Paul Leschen is an incredible pianist. I'm actually singing with him this Sunday up in Kingston.
Oh, cool.
He knows every song under the sun.
So you're not going to be at Pike County Pride then, Kyle?
No, you know why? I knew you were going to say that too, but it's also I have my Chelsea tour is Sunday midday. Okay. And I got to jump in the car and go up, but you can FaceTime me and maybe I'll join or something. We can do that. But anyway, one-man show is a goal. I'm trying to pitch a travel idea for a TV show, cross country, dealing with camp and kitsch and memory and things like that. They say it's a tough time right now for travel shows. Who knows? But that's on the docket. The disco shirt book and / museum show I really would like to do. And then the longer term goal is the mid-century items, objects museum that is someday upstate or out by Milford or what have you. If you
That's
hear
a
of any
big
real
one,
estate,
Kyle. You know
what's that?
that.
Oh,
That's a big one. You know
it's
that.
a big one. I don't know. If it happens, great. If it doesn't, but I think it would be really special for to celebrate all these beautiful, amazing things that artisans have made over the years, and to get people to take a second look at them to help preserve them too. Because a lot of people will throw stuff out. They're like, "Well, the light bulb broke. I'll throw the whole lamp out." You wouldn't believe how many times that happened. Or the cord breaks. Well, I guess it's done.
But
I'm
that's
trying to
why
help.
you and me are around, so we can go and get their stuff. And I find people like you to rewire it for me. Believe me, when you mention clocks, I'm like, oh, my ears perked up immediately. I'm thinking of a clock I have. I really need it, and it just needs quartz in it. But
You
I'm
know
like,
what's funny? And
can
I
fix
put this
it.
out there in the world now, and maybe we'll see what happens with this. But it's funny that I didn't realize Triversity was in Milford. But I don't know if you have brick and mortar or what have you. But I was looking for a
We're
place.
brick and mortar. You didn't know we have brick and mortar on the main street?
Oh, I didn't know. I need a bigger flag. I want more rainbows.
We have a
But
huge flag, Kyle. How did you walk past it and never walk?
well, I'm usually driving and trying not to hit people, so who knows? Well, I'm going to look next time. Don't you worry. And my storage unit's not far away too. But I want to try to do a occasional. Maybe you can join me. A sale, an antique sale in Milford.
I would totally do it.
But we'll just set up some tables, have it on the street, and have some fun, and bring people in, and it can be under the Triversity literal flag. We'll talk about it.
Do that. I've already spoke. I got a lot of stuff to get rid of. A lot.
Let's do it. It'll be fun. Proceeds can go to something or whatever.
Yeah. I think that that's great. I'm at the clean out stage because I have way too much stuff.
Well, yeah, I've learned the hard way that it's much easier for me to buy items than to actually sell them. Yeah. Not that it's hard to sell them, but to actually get the right person to buy it at the right price, at the right time. I'm like, ooh, what have I done? Hence the museum. No, I'm just kidding.
I know we're like really leaning towards that museum. I was going to ask you, so I also buy and sell on eBay. Do you do that?
Oh my God. I was one of the first people to join eBay when it first came out. And through the years, I've gotten so many amazing deals. People spelling things wrong or not knowing better. But unfortunately, It's so saturated at this point. The collectors aren't as interested. Everyone knows the value of everything or thinks they do. No offense to First Dibs, but maybe a little. That they jack the prices by like 5. And then maybe the 1%, somebody will buy one item, which reinforces it. And then everyone thinks these things are worth that. So then no one's able to sell their items because they're expecting these high prices. It's kind of a mess now. So I'm happy. I'm excited to get back into going to actual antique stores, and it's been so fun exploring so many out in Hawley or Home Sale,
Hawley, all those places. Yeah,
they're great. And I think a lot of you can find good stuff now at pretty good prices because I think people are just tired, myself included, that don't want to photograph it, so ship it, watch it get broken in the mail because the mail people
and then you lose the deal. That's exactly right.
It's tough, but yes, Etsy is another one. It's okay. Marketplace is really fun on Facebook because it learns your algorithm and what you look for, and it keeps feeding it to you. It's really, if you have an addictive personality, be careful. But I've gone on so many fun adventures around the tri-state area, getting these things. So that's been fun, but you got to be careful because sometimes the prices are so good. You're like, I have to get this deal, and then you end up with more stuff.
But Kyle, the next stage is getting rid of things. And that's where I'm at. I'm going to have you hold that thought. If you have any suggestions, I love your idea of setting up a table. I would totally do that with you. I got so much stuff I need to get rid of. It's a
catch-22. When I hear that, it's the only thing that makes me the most sad is when serious collectors at the end of their lives or what have you, their families just put $1 on everything and put it in the street and it all gets broken up. That kills me, and that's why the museum foundation eventually someday I want to have a way to try to preserve people's, not everything, but great collections, because it's going to get harder and harder to put those things even together as more breaks or more gets dispersed.
Where are you thinking of having this museum? You have my wheels turning. Where are you thinking of doing
I want it to be, ideally it would be off of a train line from New York City so that designers or people that don't have cars could, say that you're working fashion design, they would pay for you to take a weekend trip, go to the end of the train line, explore this amazing museum that's also maybe it has Airbnb attached to it, or maybe there's a little bit of food. Maybe you project movies at night in the backyard.
Lends itself to it. Hudson does, but
Hudson I'm even thinking Port Jervis, but I better get moving. If you know any spaces or people
I
that
do
are
know of spaces, and I can connect you with someone that hears of spaces all the time.
Oh my God, you heard it here first, folks.
Right here on Triversity Talk. Well, Kyle, we are right down to the wire. I'm going to take my picture that I love to take. Say cheese.
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 I love you and your phone. You and I, we're always together at the events, taking photos of everything.
That's what it's about.
Oh my God, you're the best. All right. Thank you so much. And I'll
Thank
see
you so much. I knew it would be fabulous to talk to you.
And
I love your energy. I love what you're doing. I love all the things that you're doing.
Last but not least, Saturday night at Julius, 8 o'clock after dark. Maybe you can come or somebody can.
It's this Saturday.
It's this Saturday. First Saturday night. One of these days.
I'll get you, darling. One of these
I'll
days.
get you yet.
Well,
Thanks,
thank you so much. If you're in the New York City area this Saturday night, Julius Bar, the oldest gay bar in the city, and the amazing Helen who owns it she's so great. I love her to death. Kyle Supley will be spinning your after dark favorites. So please come and join him. And I'll be Sunday at Pike County Pride. Come and support us. And please stay tuned next week. We have another great show. Thank you very much, everybody, for joining us tonight. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thanks.
Bye.